rushing attack from being, not where you're at to, the best performance of the season, just kind of like it was always there and you're just waiting to flip the switch?
Yeah, it was good to see. I mean, it was a focus of the bye week. It was nice to kind of take a deep breath after 6 games and kind of go back and look at our self-scout, some of the things that we wanted to clean up and fix. And yeah, it's a tribute to the players. I think they kind of saw some areas that, these are the things that we need to improve technique-wise, and then what can we do as coaches, to put our players in the best chance to succeed for kind of who we felt like our, top playmakers were. And yeah, the guys went out and they had a really good week of practice, and it was cool to see them go execute that way against a really good defense.
When you went back to watch it, what do you feel allowed some of the cushion for the running backs in particular? Because first few games you were seeing guys get hit in the backfield on the handoff, but there was obviously a lot more cushion for them to operate.
No, the offensive line did a nice job. I think they got a little bit more vertical with some of our wide zone stuff. But yeah, it's a tribute to the offensive line and their ability to come off the ball and create some movement. And then I always think it was pretty good for us to be able to have that good mix and balance. We were kind of mixing in some of the play action, some pass game stuff, to where we were able to keep those guys a little bit off balance where they couldn't just sell out against the run. So I think it may be a little bit of combination of both.
Seems like a stupid question, obvious question, and you kind of just touched on it, but when you are getting that kind of success in the run game, how much easier and more opportunities does that create for Aiden?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier on everybody, particularly a freshman quarterback, to be able to get that thing going and know that you can sometimes try a pass on first down, and if you miss, then okay, I could potentially have the option to run it on second down and get myself into a manageable situation, and that's something that or like other ways, we chose to run it on first down, and earlier in the year we were 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12, and now we're having to kind of throw our behind the sticks and to kind of stay on schedule and be able to feel like we had some confidence calling those runs was huge for myself and for a young quarterback.
Along those lines, for you, like in a rhythm, I'm wondering, just to have a running game, how much more confidence do you then get, and what sort of rhythm do you get in? What does that feel like to have sort of the whole thing at your disposal?
Yeah, no, it's that's what you want. That's what our offense, that's what we're hoping for, is designed for, is to be able to really marry that run and pass and be able to keep the defense off balance that way. And it does make things easier for pass protection, makes easier things for your quarterback decision-wise, and that run game is really the key, to what we do. So it was awesome to see it going. It did make things easier for sure.
A stranger to in-state rivalries, this time in a different part of the country. How much of a rivalry is a manufactured, and how much of just organic? You can just feel the energy and get involved in it.
No, I mean, you could feel it. I'm just excited to be a part of it. I've watched from the West Coast, and I've seen a ton of these games and the passion behind it, and then listening to a lot of former players and some of the guys that are on our staff that have been a part of it, to listen to the way that they talk about it and the importance to them. It's pretty cool, and to get a chance to be a part of a big time rivalry like this, I've really enjoyed it, and you can tell there's an increased energy, but at the same time, I think we've got a process, the way that we go about preparing and for a game, and our guys, I know they know that it's an important deal, but they got to stick to their process and go about their preparation, how we do it on a weekly basis.
How about your usage of the running backs? It seemed like a little bit of a flip with K-Ron getting a little more, but also kind of working in Tullis and Frazier. I mean, they both gave you pretty good runs, it seemed like. Yeah,
no, those young guys are coming along, and they've got some ability. I think it's just trying to get them those experience in the right situations, and we're getting more and more confident with them each week, and wanted to give them. I felt like they'd had some good weeks of practice, particularly over the bye, and wanted to give them some chance in some situations. Did some good things, and then there were some things I think that they, like anybody, you get in there for the first couple times, and a lot of really good teaching moments. But I think those guys have bright futures here, and I want to look to continue to find ways to get them involved. And as far as the K-Ron and Nate thing, sometimes you're riding a little bit of a hot hand, and sometimes it happens per play. Some of that, like, hey, we want to get this guy in on. We feel like he sees this run really well. We want to try to. That's one we want to get him in on. And sometimes you end up calling more of those just on random, so some guy gets a little bit more touches than the other. But I thought both those guys did a pretty good job on Saturday.
Flex K-Ron out a little more than in previous too. I mean, I guess, how does that help maybe not just Aiden, but also the run game and Velling and the tight ends too?
Yeah, it just creates space, I think, on the field. And if that guy's a threat to catch the ball, another guy that those guys have to defend. And it was nice to see him when, his number got called that, he's able to finish it. That's good, and it just allows you to maybe get a little more confidence in it and build on that.
Jonathan was mentioning one thing you guys came out the bye week was saying was shifting some things into more shotgun as opposed to under center. Is that about Aiden's preference, or is that something else that you guys see in terms of how that's advantageous? Obviously, the sort of the zone read stuff comes into play with him a little bit there.
No, I think he, in high school he did. He was in the gun more. We want to have that balance and be able to do both. But no, I think is also just want to get him a little bit more involved in the run game and use his legs a little bit and give him the ability to, pull it in some situations and be a threat that way. And just wanted to take a little bit, advantage of that skill set. And I thought Coach M put together, a pretty good plan that way of a good mix of things. And I think that it creates a challenge, I guess, for defenses moving forward, having to defend, both of the under center run game and then a little bit of some of the gun where the quarterback's potential run that.
How much do you think the transition was eased and the growth process eased by the fact that you knew from day one basically who this quarterback was going to be, and you were confident in?
Yeah, no, I mean it helps, and it just the reps that you got, and we knew that going in anytime you're playing with a young guy, there's going to be some ups and downs, and just trying to take advantage of every teaching moment that you get. And unfortunately, there was plenty of those in the first 6 games, that he had to learn the hard way. But I do think he's taken steps, and I really appreciate the attitude and the way he's come to work. And over the bye, it was really good to kind of take a deep breath, look back, and really digest the film with him. Hey, these are some of the things that you're doing well. This is some areas that you can grow. And I really, some guys get defensive in that situation and, kind of push the blame other ways. And Aiden owned it and was really open to like, hey, I need to clean these things up. These are some of the things I need to work on in the practice field. And I felt like it showed up a little bit on Saturday. He just needs to continue to progress, and I think he will.
I mean, do you think, as far as last game was, his best overall performance, and where do you see it going from here?
Yeah, I'd like for him to be able to build. I'd like for him to be able to build on that. He still had the 1 turnover we've really challenged on. He did have, when he was running, I felt like we're just trying to get him to do a better job taking care of the football and be more consistent with the way he carries it if he's going to run it more. So building on that, but I do think he had some growth in like, hey, this thing's not there. Okay, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to throw the ball away, or I'm going to find my second or third read. And I thought he took some steps in that area, and those are some of the things that I just think continue to build on. But I was proud of him. I felt like when stuff was there, he was hitting it, and he was on time with his feet. And those are some of the things in the first 6 that he just wasn't doing consistently enough.
How about also the response, I guess, after they score? Because he was making some throws into some tight windows, or being able to kind of advance the offense after that, where Iowa was making a push. There was some momentum on their side, at least a little bit.
Yeah, and he hit some things early in the game and felt like he was seeing it. I felt like he was seeing it really well, and it gives you a lot of confidence as more confidence as a play caller to, hey, I'm starting to trust this guy more to be able to do that. And I just think the way that he started that game in the first half and was seeing the field getting to the right spots gave me pretty good confidence to get to some of those plays that we liked.
With the ups and downs in those first 6 games, how has he been able to maintain his leadership? Because some guys can see the struggles and kind of drop away from a leader, but it seems like he's kept the guys engaged, and I think you really kind of saw it in that game with some of those responses, like Ryan mentioned.
Yeah, no, I think from the standpoint of him owning some of his mistakes, and he's talked to the offense about, hey, this is, we've got to do this better, but it starts with me. I think kind of owning, that way, and then I still think from the way that he's gone about practice, those ways. I mean, he's been really working hard. The guys see him working, how important it is to him. understand there's going to be some growing pains. And so I have a great deal of respect for the way that he's gone through that, because it's not always easy as a young guy. And then his personality, that's his personality. I mean, he's a guy that's very outgoing, energetic guy about the way, and it's cool to see him that not change, even when he was struggling.
We talked about the leadership component all off season, and it felt like that was almost a turning corner game where it was on display.
Yeah, and it's good. It was good to see him when he's just, his confidence even goes up more when he was starting to hit some things and playing more consistent.
How much of a fine line is it with a young quarterback as far as being careful with the ball, obviously, but not trying to take away his playmaking ability, not trying to tone that down?
Yeah, it's a careful balance, and it was, at times for the first 6 games, it was really challenging because, there were some times where he wasn't seeing it or wasn't in the right spot, and it, some things that you maybe liked on film, but, and as the play caller, you just, especially with the young guy, you gotta trust that, because you don't want to put your defense sometimes in bad situations. Our defense has been playing really well this year and doing a nice job, and so it is a fine line of that balance of like staying aggressive and having your quarterback take advantage of those learning opportunities, starting to trust him more, and not putting him in a better situation. It was a lot better on Saturday, where it was like, man, he was clicking, he was seeing it, and now we were able to get to all the things that we had planned to get to.
What does his legs do for the other running backs when he's able to kind of?
Yeah.
Does he have to game plan for his escape?
No, sometimes he does a good job of, he could hold the backside of runs, and I do think, and that with the play action game, I think can help create some space for the backs for sure.
Do you worry about him, especially in a rivalry game where hitting kind of gets a little intense and some of the after whistle stuff happens? Do you have to have conversations with him this week about when to pull, when to?
Yeah, I don't think it's when to pull it. I mean, if the defense gives him the opportunity to pull it, then he needs to do it. I think he needs. We've challenged him on when he does pull it, as being smart with the way he's running and not trying to take on these guys straight on, as being smart with the way he can get what he can get out of bounds, get what he can get down, just being smart with the hits that he's taking. I think you see some of those guys in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, those guys that pull it in the run game. Those guys are really good at getting what they can get, and then being smart about not taking unnecessary shots. So I think that's an area that we're trying to coach him on, and I think he can be better at.
I know you.
Oh.
A couple more here, sorry.
Oh.
Who's going first?
You mentioned in the wide zone you got more vertical in some of those changes, but in addition to that, there's just more movement with double team blocks, more physicality. Any particular reason why some of those players were able to carve that out for themselves?
No, yeah, Coach M could probably get into some of the specifics of it. I think there were some things that it was like you said, some small tweaks technique-wise, and I do felt like it was just an attitude thing of, sometimes defenses are moving, the offensive line can play kind of passive and trying to catch everything, and we've challenged our guys to really come off the ball and be more aggressive and try to create movement, and something that was a big focus over the bye week. And I thought Coach M and the offensive line, tight ends, those front guys, really took to it, had a good week of practice, and it was able to see it.
And I want to ask you about Michigan's defense. What do you see in that group? Is it similar to what you saw during off-season study, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, super talented. I mean, it starts with the front seven. The front seven is as good of front seven as we've seen. I mean, at that elite level, players can rush the passer. They're doing a really good job against the run, making teams one-dimensional, which creates some issues. And then with the scheme, they give you a lot of different looks for the quarterback with some of the simulated pressures and things that they're doing with coverage-wise. So it's a big time challenge. And then couple that with going on the road in a rivalry game, we got our hands full for sure. And it'll be a challenge. And I think it's one our guys are excited for, opportunity to go play against a great defense on the road in a rivalry game.
In the game, you guys were pretty low at the efficiency rankings. I mean, how much do you guys look at those rankings? The advanced stats. I mean, as far as efficiency is concerned, and what do you attribute how good you were? I mean, scoring on 8 of 11 possessions, and that's 8 of 9 essentially.
No, I mean we're definitely looking at some of those some of those stats, but more so kind of trying to find out the reasons why and how we can be better, and some of the areas that if we ended with a field goal or we didn't end with points, what were some of the drive stoppers, and that's some of the things that we really struggled with through the first 6, of whether it was a penalty, and most of them were self-inflicted things that we kind of showed our guys, like, hey, a lot of times we're just doing this thing to ourselves. It wasn't anything the defense did. We're stopping ourselves, and the reason, and we were just a little bit more consistent with our execution this last weekend, and but still would love to be able to put in some more of those touchdowns. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Well, Nate Farr